bold journalism.
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
Exposing lawlessness.
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological.
Finding the truth.
And use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
Welcome to TPUSA Live. My name is Drew Hernandez, host of Frontlines. Here's what we've got coming up on the live stream today. I'm talking all about how Disney continues to double down on their moves to sexualize and indoctrinate children. And then I'm bringing in pop culture YouTuber Ryan Kinel to give his take. Plus, you won't believe this. A woke med student in Florida allegedly assaulted a patient all over pronouns. Then we'll send it over to the couch for TPUSA Live with Jon Root and your favorite contributors. They're talking about a totally racist new policy in a Washington state school. Plus, what in the world Wednesday? Then Human Events Daily host Jack Posobiec is diving into why the White House allegedly left out some damning documents surrounding a gruesome child porn case that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was involved in. And then we wrap up the stream with the great Alex Clark, who's asking the question, are we really buying Will Smith's slap apology? We'll see how that goes. Also, Frontlines is now available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and other streaming services. Do not forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review right now to support us. My name is Drew Hernandez, and these are the Frontlines. Let's get into this. All right, breaking news. The New York Post reports that Disney executive vows for more gay characters amid huge inclusivity push. And obviously all the drama surrounding Governor Ron DeSantis punching in and signing the anti-grooming bill in Florida, and all these pedophiles and child groomers are having a problem with it, of course. They say, no. They're saying we can't say gay. No, we're just saying you shouldn't groom children. That's what this entire bill is designed to do in Florida. But a Disney executive vowed more inclusivity in its productions as the entertainment giant works to make unrepresented groups, such as racial minorities and the LGBTQ community, account for at least 50% of its regular characters by the end of this year. Carrie Burke, president of Disney's General Entertainment Content, said the company must do more to make its content more inclusive in a company-wide Zoom call Monday that was later posted to Twitter. She started off by saying, "I'm here as a mother of 2 queer children," actually. Burke said on the call, 1 transgender child and 1 pansexual child, and also as a leader. Let's run that clip.
One of our execs stood up and said, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters and not have to be about gay stories. And so that's been very eye-opening for me.
Joining me now is the great Ryan Kinel, the host on RK Outpost, pop culture YouTuber, my friend. Ryan, talk to me, bro. What are we dealing with here?
Dude, we're dealing with insanity. We're dealing with leftist insanity. And unfortunately, it's been going on so long that we're to this point where we're talking about gay and minority characters. We need to have it at least 50%, Drew. If it's not at least 50%, then Disney's not going to be happy. And I guess, are we really surprised with all the discussion surrounding the Parental Rights and Education bill that these activists, we just also happen to have 2 queer children, 1 transgender child and a pansexual child. I think 20 years ago, those very phrases would have frightened us. And now it just seems a little crazy, huh? It's weird.
I mean, Ryan, even if it's like, we want it to be 50%, we want it to be inclusive, that's not the direction this is going. You and I both know this. You cover this stuff on a daily basis. You look at Star Wars. You look at everything Disney is putting out on Pixar, all these movies. Everything's going full woke on Disney+. Everything in Marvel, from DC, all these universes that people have come to love so much and see on the big screen. it's not that they want it 50%. They want like total domination. The entire universe is just going to be some LGBTQ supremacist universe across the board. Am I wrong? Am I like a crazy person?
No, you're 100% right. And it's kind of like everything. It's no longer about some sort of movement for equality. It's no longer some sort of movement for representation. All those things already exist. Now you have this movement for equity, and now you have this movement for over-representation. You can't deny that that's what it is. I mean, when you look at virtually everything coming out of Hollywood, especially from Disney, it seems like half the characters are already LGBTQIA+, whatever else they've decided to add since we've streamed this. But the idea that now it's about well more than 50, like you said, that won't be enough. It'll be, I guess I don't know what the end goal is. The end goal just to not have any more human life exist on this planet. I think that is the goal for a lot of people, but that's eventually where it's headed. And we're talking about, for some cases here, getting into this entire parental rights thing, which is really the impetus for all of this that we're talking about over the past few days. You're talking about people, a lot of them, can't reproduce, and some of them want to talk to your children about this when you're not there. They want to be able to talk to your kindergartner about their gender identity because they know that's the perfect time to engineer them, and that's what's going on.
And it's disgusting. It's like literal grooming, and these people think that it's normal. Speaking of Disney, let's stay on this topic. Here's an executive producer literally coming out and just saying it out in the open, that this is a secret agenda, a not so secret agenda, a gay agenda that's just unfolding through Disney. Let's run that clip.
Our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda, and so maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess something must have happened in the last they are turning it around, they're going hard, and then all that momentum that I felt, that sense of I don't have to be afraid to let's have these two characters kiss. Let's in the background. I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud of them. But I just was no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me.
They're telling us right out in the open. It's not so secret. It's right there, right in front of your face, Ryan.
It's a gay agenda for Disney, which, again, a couple decades ago, Disney was what everyone looked to as family friendly. That was it. That's the bottom line. That was their brand. And the scary part is they still want that to be their brand. They just want to push all of this stuff to the front. And they feel so open about it because they have control over everything. Leftists have control over everything right now. They have control over the mainstream media. They have control over all forms of entertainment. So they are being very blatant. And when you have that type of control, it allows you to gaslight people into thinking that they're seeing something that they're absolutely not. And as someone who lives in Florida, not that far from Disney World, the fact that that is where the biggest push is. Disney, this huge mega corporation that are trying to engineer at a very young age your children.
Yes.
Something I think all of us would have been comfortable with just turning on Disney Channel 10, 15 years ago for your kids to watch at home. Oh, that must be okay. That must be safe. Not so much anymore.
It's so disgusting. It's so alarming. It's oh, you know what? If we want to have a conversation with your child about sexual preference, or if your child has a question about gay sex or something, we feel the right to do it because, I'm gay and I should be able to do it. It's well, what about the parents? What if the parents don't want that happening? Doesn't matter. You're a bigot. You're the homophobe. You're the one that's mentally insane. Speaking of that, Ryan, here's another clip of a Florida elementary teacher saying she will still hold back information from students' parents about them coming out. It's insanity. Let's run that.
I just want to go ahead and state that I would rather lose my job than out one of my students to their families. Being a safe person and a safe place for kids that don't have that at home is one of the best parts of being a teacher. So yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't know. Fire me, sue me, take me to jail. I'm not doing it.
Yes, take her to jail. Put that groomer in prison.
I agree with all of her solutions. Fire her, sue her, and put her in prison. I'm completely fine with that. And there are some people that think that teachers have some sort of rights when it comes to educating your children. They don't, right? Their job is to educate your children, not in what is a woman, what is a man, not in things like that, unless you're talking about high school biology, ironically. But it's talking about numbers. It's talking about the ABCs. It's to actually educate them and instruct them. That's it. And we as parents, when we send them to school, we don't forfeit our rights over our child and how they are raised. And this is a big problem because I think you have a generation that's been indoctrinated by Marxist colleges and universities that are now all of a sudden becoming teachers. And that's all that they know how to do. That's one of the big reasons you're seeing this pushback against it right now. And I did just want to point out that this bill, even though it's labeled "Don't Say Gay," gay is nowhere to be found in the bill. Homosexual is nowhere to be found in the bill. And in fact, if there does happen to be a gay student, a gay kindergartner, which, God, that is terrifying, let's be honest. But if there is, you know who's also protected? That gay kindergartner, if that's actually their sexual identity, because then you don't have a teacher trying to parent them and say, no, this is the right thing to do. As much as we might want to, the bill prohibits that. So they're being protected too.
Absolutely. And it's like, these are literal groomers that are coming out in the open, and they're hiding behind this false narrative that they're slandering the actual, like you said, the actual policy has nothing to do with people not being able to say the word gay, homosexual. The context is protecting children from groomers. But look at, now Disney, here's their statement. A statement, this is the verified Walt Disney Company Twitter account. This is their official statement saying, Florida's HB 1557 bill, also known as the Don't Say Gay bill, should never have passed and should never have been signed into law. Our goal as a company is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts, and we remain committed to supporting the national and state organizations working to achieve that. We are dedicated to standing up for the rights and safety of LGBTQ plus members of the Disney family, as well as the LGBTQ plus community in Florida and across the country. They're still running with the narrative that it's about not saying gay. But listen, Ryan, you and I both know Disney has a history of being weird with children, their employees being caught in pedo rings, child trafficking rings. Now you're just seeing it out in the open. So is it really a surprise that Disney is like, yes, welcome to Disney, children. Welcome to Disneyland. We will take good care of you. We'll take care of you. But don't tell mommy and daddy. Don't tell mommy and daddy, Ryan. Don't tell anybody about what we're doing here at Disney, because that's bad. Mommy and daddy are the bad ones. We're the ones that'll take care of you. It's like creepy as hell, bro.
Well, I think in reality, don't say gay. More accurately, it should be don't tell your parents, because that's what they don't want these children to say. They don't want them to be honest about what these teachers and what's happening at Disney. But Disney is a company who we're only a couple months removed from them cutting same-sex relationships and same-sex kisses for release in the Middle East and in Asia. They did that to the Eternals. They've done that to Star Wars movies in the past. They don't actually care about this stuff, I don't think, company-wide. What they're trying to do is manage this backlash. And the problem is they decided to get political. Bob Chapek tried to say, oh, we don't want to be political. You decided. When you did things like fire Gina Carano, when you do things and make these type of statements, you decided what side you're on. And it's very obvious. So now your woke audience, these people that you've been appealing to, these Twitterati, these woke-tards, as you love to call them, Drew, these people are now trying to hold you accountable to what you said. And now they're stuck. So they've gone all in on this absolute nonsense. And as dumb as the don't say gay thing seems to us and all rational humans who don't get our news force-fed by the mainstream media, it is working to some extent. You've got all these idiots in Hollywood who completely are doing the same thing. You have people paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for billboards that just say gay on them in Florida. That's what's going on because there are so many people that have been tricked by this nonsense.
And these people don't realize they're defending pedophiles and child groomers. It's like, listen, either A, you're fully aware of what's in the bill and you're a pedo and you're a child groomer and like you're happy that this is happening, opposing something like this, right? Or you're just totally ignorant. You have no idea what's going on. It's got to be one or the other, Ryan. I mean, honestly, some of these people, it's like, dude, do you realize that you are opposing something that's meant to combat child sex groomers?
Yeah, and the fact that you would take all of that information, that you know it's an anti-grooming bill, that it's there to protect children, that it's there to just make sure that parents have all of their rights to raise their children the way that they want to raise them. And then you would then turn around and say, well, it's obviously just anti-LGBTQ. It's an anti-gay bill if it's protecting children from being groomed. Well, then you're telling on yourselves, aren't you? You are setting that narrative. You're the one that's admitting that there's certain people in that community that want to groom your children. And that's just a that's just a fact, Drew. I'm sorry, I almost slipped up there. I fumbled my words.
It's all good, man. Dude, this is like honestly, I've been telling people, here we are in 2022. We've been telling people for decades that this agenda is going to go only one way. It's going to go target little kids. And here we are. It's unfolding in 2022. It's clearly happening. Parents need to get behind this and push against it. All of Americans, it doesn't matter what your political ideology is. I don't care. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you identify as a centrist and not on the right. Like, this is something that we all have to get behind. Literally, these are children. These are our babies. Final word, Ryan. What's your final take? Where do you think this is going?
Well, I think it's going to a bad place, obviously. But what you said is a great point, Drew. As much as we're talking about children and the parents' right to raise their children the way, I want to defend everyone's right to raise their child. I don't think that you need to have any of my political views or anything like that imposed on your kid. That's not my job. My job is to raise my children. Your job is to raise yours. The education system needs to stay out of it. But I think we're seeing people wake up to this, because when children are involved, people can get very passionate. We saw what happened in Virginia with that election. Mm-hmm. People care about these things. So when kids are involved, that can wake people up, because that is the thing they care most about. And I hope that's what happens for these woke corporations like Disney. People realize it and they stop funding people who hate them.
Absolutely. Boycott Disney, cancel your Disney Plus, stop going to the parks. They're screwing you anyways, taking all your money. Ryan Kinel, the great Ryan Kinel of RK Outpost on YouTube. Brother, where can people follow you across the board?
You can find me. You can just search RK Outpost on YouTube. You'll find me. I'm also part of Geeks and Gamers, so definitely come check us out at Geeks and Gamers. And as you know, you can check me out on Friday nights on Nerdrotic's channel at Friday Night Tights.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. There he goes. All right, America, you see, this agenda is continuing to unfold, and we have to get behind the kids. I don't care what your politics are. Enough is enough. But before we get into our next story, I'm sure you've noticed meat at the grocery store is not getting any cheaper under President Biden's ridiculous policies, failed policies. If you're looking to save money without sacrificing quality, then you need to check out Good Ranchers. Their prices on 100% American meat have remained affordable, and their quality beats the store every single time. Right now, you can save money, get steakhouse quality, and donate $50 to TPUSA by visiting goodranchers.com/TPUSA. With your purchase, you will donate $50 to TPUSA to help us do what we do here every day and support American ranches in the process. Make your $50 donation today. Go to www.goodranchers.com/TPUSA to get the quality you have been missing. All right, America, let's continue. Second story of the day, Post-Millennial reports pronoun prick. Medical student boasts about abusing patient with needle after pronoun diss. So apparently she was offended, and I'll give you the details here. This is really insane. You got to really be careful out there. A fourth-year medical student at Wake Forest boasted on social media Tuesday about apparently sticking a patient unnecessarily with a needle. All because he mocked her pronoun pin. He hurt her feelings, so she decided to assault him with a needle and prick him with God knows where that needle came from. Is that justifiable? I think anybody watching is saying no, but these people are mentally ill. They're psychopaths. So if you offend them or hurt their feelings, the snowflakes are going to melt and they're going to physically assault you in return. We've been seeing that, 2020 riots. Been seeing that all over college campuses. Oh, if you have any word, your silence is violence. Jokes can be violent. Words you say are violent now, so it's justifiable for me to physically assault you if you say something that hurts my feelings. That's who these people are. K-Del Rosario, a fourth-year medical student at Wake Forest School of Medicine, posted to Twitter that a patient was so disrespecting of her pronouns that she intentionally injured the patient during a medical procedure. Though Rosario has since deleted her account. Gee, I wonder why. Why did she delete her account? Isn't it funny how these people are like, we are so strong, we are so stuck in our beliefs, we're willing to physically assault someone who hurts our feelings, but the moment they get exposed, I'm deleting my account. I don't want anybody to know who I am. I don't want to get doxxed. Ridiculous. She said, I had a patient I was doing a blood draw on, see my pronoun pin, and laughed loudly to the staff, she, her. Well, of course it is. What other pronouns even are there? It. I missed his vein, so he had to get stuck twice, Del Rosario said in a now deleted tweet. Del Rosario was responding to a tweet from another individual that's an MD that spoke out about how she wears her pronouns on her name badge to help her patients and colleagues who fall under the same trans umbrella and make them feel a little more comfy and comfortable. But you know, snowflakes, right? The tweet was screenshot by Libs of TikTok, who shared that the fourth-year medical student from Wake Forest says she abused a patient because he laughed at her pronoun pin. And she deleted her account. Listen, these people are ridiculous. I want to give you some details on who this person is. The article goes on to say, Wake Forest School of Medicine responded saying, thank you for bringing this to our attention. This student's tweet does not reflect how Wake Forest University School of Medicine treats patients and provides patient care. We are taking measures to address this with the student. Del Rosario has a history of trans activism. Oh, would you look at that? In March 2021, Del Rosario advocated against the bathroom bill that required individuals to use the gendered bathroom that aligned with the sex recorded on their birth certificate, saying that policies like these have consequential impacts on the health of transgender people. Isn't that just ironic, right? Del Rosario spoke of plans to make a medical career out of treating the transgender community. Isn't it crazy? Like, this is how crazy these people are, okay? These are the people that are like, I want to be in the medical career. I want a medical career. I want to do good. I want to help people. I want to be in the process of healing communities that are sick or that need that type of medical help. That's what I want. At least anybody in their right mind, right? Anybody in their right mind that wants to be a part of the medical community should obviously want to help people. I mean, God, I would hope they want to be a nurse or a doctor or any way, shape, or form. Shouldn't that be like your heart if you want to go down that path? I think everyone would say, yeah. But these people claim to be that. But here she is, someone that offends her pronouns or offends her feelings, hurts her feelings. She uses her position where she should be helping people to physically assault them. And I don't know where this needle came from. Do you? Does she? Is this transferring more disease to the patient? This is how psycho these people are, okay? Their backgrounds are insane. I'll give you some more. Del Rosario also spoke about being a leader in a safe zone in a paper advocating for more affirming transgender policy at the state level at one of the fellowships, and touted her concern about making sure transgender patients are treated well. This despite bragging about mistreating the patients in her own care. This is what she said. I am in a unique position as a leader in a safe zone in medicine. Del Rosario also complained of having impostor syndrome after becoming a doctor and feeling odd saying her name and title. It was also noted that on Twitter, Del Rosario had become frustrated with doctors who don't care about pronouns. Isn't it crazy how insane these people get? Like, we care so much about humans. We want to provide care to them. It should be a safe space for anyone that's sick. But if you hurt my feelings, if you don't say the right pronouns, if you say a joke that's a little too offensive, I'm going to physically assault you in return. If you're under my care, how far does that really go? You see how this regime and this cult, its woke tentacles just extend throughout all channels in society? You look at everything. These people are where? In medicine, in science, in education, obviously. We just got done talking about Hollywood. These people are in Hollywood. These people are in the music industry. This dangerous woke ideology has extended throughout all of these channels in society. And people might ask themselves, oh, who cares? Who cares if the woke people just, want to have their agenda unfold in Disney or in cartoons or in movies? But what does this look like in the medical field? What does this look like in science? We've seen all that through COVID, but here we are, okay, with this woke snowflake that feels entitled to physically assault a patient that hurt her feelings. No, this is a crime. She should be arrested. I don't know how far this really goes, but I know you take a look at this person's background and they are clearly woke, clearly a part of this agenda that is infiltrating society, and they feel like they're entitled. See, this is how you know it's a woke supremacist mindset. When you take a look at all of these movements that are unfolding, they say white supremacy is the greatest threat. White people are the one that are supreme. The hegemonic power in the United States of America is white people because they are the dominant population here in the United States of America, but they are the very ones that have the supremacist ideology. They want you to be concerned thinking that white supremacy is actually an issue in the United States of America, when actually it's woke supremacy with their totalitarian mindsets, ideas, and agendas that literally lead to you getting physically assaulted if you hurt their feelings as a patient. It's just like, where do we go from here? Because if someone comes out and says, hey, maybe that person should be arrested. Oh, I'm a person of color, I'm Asian, or I'm a part of the trans community, or whatever. Now I'm protected, so I get to just physically assault people if you hurt my feelings. That's not right. Del Rosario also complained of having impostor syndrome. And this is her response. For all the doctors saying, I don't care about pronouns, or it's too hard to remember, here are the facts. Del Rosario shared in a retweet that cited statistics on a decrease in suicide attempts by those preferred pronouns are respected. You better effing care. These are the types of things that she shares. And this is why I tell people, I can guarantee you, okay? You're watching a TPUSA show. We hit hard, we push back on the woke education system, CRT, all these dangerous ideologies that are indoctrinating the minds of millions of kids. These are propaganda factories. They're not even universities. We got to stop calling them that. This is what these people are doing. These dangerous ideologies lead to real-world violence. Yet they turn around and say that your silence is violence. They turn around and say that your jokes go too far, and that's a threat to my existence. They peddle, fearmonger, everything's a phobia. They attach phobia to everything. Homophobia, transphobia, you name it. Islamophobia. The list goes on. They peddle that there's this crazy fear, there's this crazy threat out there in the ether, and it strokes their mental illness, and it appears to give them an excuse to get violent against anyone that they deem a necessary threat or a credible threat to their existence. And these are where these ideologies, you go to a university today, all these, you look at the Turning Point USA professor watch list, these people teach this stuff to children, and it radicalizes young minds because their minds are not fully developed. They get indoctrinated, they get radicalized. They get mobilized, and then they start committing real-world violence. We have seen this happen time after time. This is why Antifa is so open about physically assaulting people if they deem them a threat, because, hey, if you are a political threat in my eyes, if you're a white supremacist that is in opposition to me and you're going to hurt my life, I should be able to take you out physically. You see, this isn't just the people wearing black and black bloc. It's also people like this that are the future doctors, future nurses, people that have future careers and taking care of those that need help. What does the future look like in the woke regime? You show up to a hospital someday, you get denied. That's been happening, actually. You get denied care because of your political ideology. You said something on social media that offends a nurse and their pronouns, so you get left there to die. Is that where we're going? Very well, could be. We already have them physically assaulting patients because they believe that they deserve it. This woke ideology is infecting all society, and it's going to continue to get people hurt. And it's interesting because you have Twitter out there, big tech saying, oh, you know, we deplatform anybody that says things a little too far that might lead to real-world violence. But they're the ones that do it. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the front lines, and TPUSA Live starts right now.
Thanks a lot, Drew. I couldn't agree more. But hey, everyone, once again, welcome to TPUSA HQ in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. This is what we're covering on TPUSA Live today. First, just like Drew was talking about, Disney's gone all in on grooming children. Bruce Willis calls it quits on his acting career and so much more in the Daily Briefing. Next, TPUSA contributor Graham Allen will join us to discuss President Biden's recent gaffes and new evidence in the Hunter Biden laptop story. Then Seattle radio host Jason Rantz joins us to chat about the state of Washington considering race when punishing children and more nonsense. Finally, another wild edition of What in the World Wednesday, followed by CNN turning on the Biden family? We'll find out. And one last thing. Buckle up. TPUSA Live from HQ starts right now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
What up? Welcome to TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. The production team behind us, the camera crew is making us laugh. He's doing some parkour and trying to get to the second camera. This is going to be a great show. We got Isabel Brown, Lily Standley, Connor Clegg. I think we're going to dive right on in. I know this is something that Drew Hernandez was talking about. Disney used to be the happiest place on earth. Now it's becoming the wokest place on earth. So what they're saying now is, according to this breaking news from Fox 11, Disney parks are going to change their park greeting from hello friends instead of ladies and gentlemen or boys and girls in order to be gender inclusive. Isabel.
I think this isn't the real story. This is my hot take. I might post about this later. I talked about this on the news this morning as it was coming out. Basically, the way we found this out is it came out in their secret top executive Zoom call, Imagine the Future, that they're trying to move away from any gendered space at Disneyland or Disney World, and basically that all of their content is going to start incorporating LGBTQ LMNOP figures into every major Disney TV show, Disney Channel production, Pixar movie. Everything is going to have up to 50% LGBT characters in the future, which is really interesting. Yes. But what's interesting beyond that to me is that the media is like so hyper-focused about this. Oh, when you show up at Disney World, they're not going to say boys and girls. That's not the real story to me. The real story to me is that several weeks ago, for the second time in just a few years, several Disney employees were caught up in arrest stings for human trafficking and pedophilia crimes. So if you don't think these two things are connected, you're not paying enough attention. But it would be a huge mistake for us to just focus on showing up at the park and being outraged that the loudspeakers aren't saying, welcome boys and girls to hang out with Mickey. This is a much bigger story, so we should be treating it as
it's a total smokescreen.
I totally
for the
think that it's a
actual situation.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think I agree with that take, Isabel.
And there was one of like the top animators creating these animated films on this same Zoom call that comes forward and is like, oh yeah, when I was in charge of storyboarding all these movies, I made a queer main character. I threw queer references in here and here and here. Queer for everybody. The whole movie, because that's what I wanted to do, and nobody stopped me, she said. So I'm going to keep doing this in every single movie in the future.
She called it a not at all secret gay agenda. And these people are admitting to one another because they feel comfortable doing so, because they're all evil and sick and sinister, that they have an agenda, right? To indoctrinate and groom your children into thinking that something that's not natural, not biblical, and not biologically sound is okay.
Which is so interesting, and I think that word is really important, agenda. Because I think in just a few years, really throughout our teenage and young adult years, we've transformed this entire concept from like, oh, we just need to accept people the way they are as how they were born, and if we're just accepting people, that's going to be fine, thinking at the time that the LGBT community was easily less than 3 to 5% of the entire United States population.
Which they are,
now,
let's be clear.
There's new Gallup polling that's showing the percentage of people who self-identify as LGBTQ plus all of the alphabet things are now up to 21% for Generation Z, people born between 1997 and 2003. That doesn't just happen overnight, that much of a statistical jump. So what does an agenda actually mean? It means they're trying to convince children that they maybe are transgender or non-binary or demisexual or any of the crazy labels and identities that are being thrown out there, even if they never intended on identifying as that themselves. That's a really scary thought.
Yeah. Disney's one of the most powerful corporations that we have, so it's very interesting to see how they're using their target audience to do something that seems so non-important, and the agenda is quite clear.
To them.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, if you can get into children and mess with their mindset, I mean, I was learning about how a child's brain and your core beliefs are fully developed pretty much by the age of 9. After 9 years old, it's really hard to change innate natural order in children. So obviously that's their target audience. It makes perfect sense. How can people dismiss the fact that this is a complete agenda?
Well, then it's like not so secret anymore. So going off what you're saying, Connor, it's like Disney for a long time has kind of put some like subtle little like sexual hints in there in some of their
now they're full gas.
Yeah, and then now it's basically this is our agenda. Boom, this is what we're doing, and it's what these kids are gonna know. Like when we look back and we think about Disney movies that we watched, we're like, it was just like it was fun. Like the music was great, or we like certain characters not because they fit into a specific demographic or group that's trying to be pushed now.
It's so funny. When I last traveled to Disneyland, I'm a big tinfoil hat girl, you know, I love my conspiracy theories, and so I would go and, you know, I've read about Club 33, and and I know like Walt Disney was a Freemason or whatever, you know, so I was just looking out for all of these clues and signs, you know, the drains have pentagrams on them, and like you read the writing on the wall. Yeah.
I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World. I'm like
so
one of the 1% of life.
You're not missing much, okay?
My mom didn't believe in standing
Disneyland
in
was
line
fantastic.
for fake rides for family vacations,
Exactly
so we took road trips to the national park.
It was just so much
nerdy
more
when I was
fun to go and try to look
for
at
that
the
stuff,
agendas because, I mean, obviously you have such a target audience, you have such a group of kids, so many people spending millions of dollars over a certain amount of time to go to these places. You look for the agendas, and now it only makes sense that they're targeting kids with sexuality. It's in everything else. It's in our education. It's in our freaking churches, schools, families, all of it. Why not use this?
Can I be clear really quickly? I just want to be clear for like the Media Matters people that are watching, the left-wing journalists, loser scum. This isn't about being anti-gay. It's about being like anti-talking to our kids about sex.
Exactly,
right? And then if we want to add on to it, it's about being like super anti-talking to them about gay sex, right?
It's just weird. Like,
it's
why
weird
are
and
we
it's
talking
creepy.
to children about this? And I've noticed this about Disney in particular. You're right. There was like a really big shift by the time we became adults, where all of a sudden these movies weren't about heroism or courage or bravery. It was about pushing a political agenda at the end of the day. And every single major Disney movie that's come out in the last 5 to 10 years has had at least somewhat, if not an overt agenda. I remember noticing that shift.
Elections have consequences.
Well,
people don't realize that this kind of stuff stems from giant cultural shifts in power, and it just trickles down through society in ways that they wouldn't realize get affected.
I think it's backwards even. We always say politics is downstream from culture. When I noticed that shift was like when Zootopia came out. I remember Zootopia was just garbage town. It was like defund the police and super bad. But now
the sloth was great.
That's annoyed me. But now Disney has slowly taken over every single type of culture digitally. I mean, Disney's the most powerful company on earth. They own Star Wars, they own Marvel, they own everything. And have you noticed that now, since acquiring all of those other companies, in Marvel movies, we're going to have gay superheroes, and we're going to be pushing that agenda there. In Star Wars, we're talking about the LGBT agenda. It is
ESPN's endorsing transgender athletics
to all of the companies that they
own. We'll do final take here. We'll get a few more things in the daily.
No, I was just going to say, I just watched all of the Star Wars for the first time ever. I'm 26 years old. Yes. Wow. And so I did like the full thing, right? Start to the beginning. And I noticed that they were very masculine heavy at the beginning of it all, right? And then you get to the very end, and it's like you've got like this weird.
You started with the old ones first?
Yeah, the old ones. I guess I went whatever. I don't know the thing. But yeah, they started getting like weird and like social justice-y, and like people were doing stuff that they're not like. They're putting fat people in the cruisers, and I'm like, okay.
Why? Yeah, I mean,
because it seemed like everything was calculated with Star Wars.
There's lesbians at the end, one of them, and I'm like,
why? You just know that like that stuff is just like planted in there. It's like, all right, let's hit this demographic. Or
but
it's
that's
like,
Disney for you, right?
That's it. That's all they're doing. A few more things in the daily briefing. Bruce Willis, great actor. Definitely Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, Sixth Sense. He actually, fun fact, he won an Emmy as an outstanding guest actor on Friends.
Did he really? That's hilarious.
When he was playing Rachel's dad. But he announced, him and his family, that he's stepping away from acting due to his recent diagnosis of aphasia. Am I saying that right, doctor? Aphasia. So it's a degenerative brain disease. So definitely thoughts and prayers for Bruce Willis for sure. Obviously, someone that's got some cognitive decline is President Biden. Wouldn't mind if he retired. But he is actually going to receive his 4th COVID-19 booster, or he just did, President Biden, Mr. Cognitive Decline.
4th shot.
Yeah, there it is. We're actually going to show a quick video of that before we take a quick break and talk to contributor Graham Allen. Let's check out that video.
I've always thought that it discourages people getting the vaccination when I watch people get a needle in their arm. So I apologize for discouraging them. It didn't hurt a bit, and I was able to roll my sleeve up, and thank you all for
So confused. If you think it's going to discourage people, then why are you doing it?
Dude, the Biden family has no problem with needles in arms.
Did you hear whenever he walked on stage? They didn't play it, but he walked up on stage. He's like, I'm going to go take my shot now. I don't know why I'm doing it on stage.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he just mumbled it to himself, and I was like, what the hell? Yeah, it's weird. We don't either.
Yeah, they just approved. Yeah, they just approved the 4th booster for people over 50. So, or the 2nd booster, 4th shot, whatever. Same thing. It's all the same. I have always been, much so, very, very curious and apprehensive about these celebrities getting shots on TV. I don't know why, but I just cannot believe that that's what's actually in there. I feel like it's saline. I don't know. I don't like any of it.
Is he going to keep just getting shots and boosters the rest of his
virtue
administration?
signaling. It's
boom,
not even
boom,
like,
boom,
why
boom,
do
boom,
it
boom.
on
It's a crazy
virtue signaling.
We don't want him to be shot.
Like, he's such a good person, Isabel. Can't you see how good of a person he is?
It's like private medical things. I don't know. That just seems weird to me.
Crazy world. But hey, we're going to do a little shout out to YWLS. Definitely an event that all you young ladies should be going to. TPUSA.com/YWLS. We'll show you this promo, and then we're going to be back with TPUSA contributor Graham Allen. Don't go anywhere.
Bye-bye.
And I hope you're filled with courage and conviction, clarity, and a little bit of wisdom. Know that we at Turning Point USA, we have your back.
Once again, you got to go to YWLS. That's TPUSA.com/YWLS. You can use promo code Isabel.
Woo!
But as always, save some time. JON. Way better.
I like how you're saying that now. It's like you care about ending the patriarchy. It's nice. Very woke of you. Very progressive.
I
For a white guy, that says a lot.
Just applied to Disney too, so I
He's
think I got
ready.
a great
He makes
shot.
the switch. Yeah.
But right now, we're going to talk to TPUSA contributor, host of Dear America podcast, TPUSA contributor Graham Allen. What's going on?
What's up, guys?
It's good to see you. We've missed you. I don't know. When are we going to see you again?
I don't know. I don't like to be hot. So as you can tell, it's still cold here. So welcome to one of the rooms of my man cave down here. I'm trying to be like you with the sports stuff in the back. So, you know, it's a rare look. Most people never get to see this.
I appreciate that. But I mean, obviously you've been going in on the Hunter Biden situation, and not enough people are paying attention to this because obviously there's a lot of mainstream leftist news networks that aren't even saying his name or mentioning this. But there's some new evidence that just came out that there's some Chinese oligarchs that gave Hunter Biden close to $100,000.
Yeah.
Break it down.
Yeah, new news. Yeah, I like that a lot. In fact, I will give CNN a little credit. I saw on Twitter just this morning. In fact, I retweeted it. They basically were like, "Oh, this is real stuff," and I hate to say it this way, but it looks like federal indictment charges are going to be brought on Hunter Biden, and then it'll be a political situation, the likes of which we've never seen, that the president's son will be facing federal indictments and possibly prison. And I just responded with, it's almost like we were saying that a couple years ago, right before the election. This is just the narrative, guys. I mean, at this point, I don't know how any sane, rational person, whether you're on the left or the right, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. They're not even trying to hide it these days. We know that it was suppressed. What's even crazier is how little the New York Post, the actual post that broke it, or the story that broke it, how little they have revolted against the national narrative that everybody just accepts it now. Oh, okay, it's just this, it's just that. Matt Gaetz the other day is literally talking to the, what was it, the Associate Director of Cyber for the FBI. And they've had the laptop since 2019 and they don't know where it is. Literally, the guy sits there and he's like, I don't know what to tell you. He even tells Congressman Gaetz, he's like, Congressman, we could go back and forth on this all day. I don't know. And Matt Gaetz is like, how do you not know? Is that not your job? And if the FBI couldn't have a worse reputation right now, I don't know what is. The whole thing is laughable. The mainstream media is laughing in our faces. They're literally dangling in front of us that such valuable information and now true information was withheld from the American people, and no one's held accountable for it. It's quite baffling, honestly.
Graham, can you unpack that New York Post angle a little bit more for us? Why do you think they're not absolutely revolting against this? They were kicked off Twitter, completely deplatformed over this story.
I don't make enough money to understand those decisions, I guess. I would imagine it has a lot to do with money when it comes down to it. If it was the Dear America podcast that broke it and it got kicked off of every platform, and then 2 years later they go, oh, Graham was right about that, the whole thing, I would be everywhere. I'd be on the Today Show somehow. I'd be on everything trying to be like, I told you guys this kind of thing. And I don't know, journalism is dead. Unfortunately, not obviously what Turning Point USA is doing, but journalism's dead. Truthful journalism is dead. Truly, the justice system is corrupt. Everything is backwards right now. And the worst part is America's just sitting back and watching. We know that it's wrong. We know that it's bad, but we just sit on our phones and we scroll and we're like, knew it the whole time. And you just keep on swiping. And until we get to a point where enough people are at the point where enough is enough, this is just going to keep getting worse.
Amen. Do you think that the media has a kind of concerted strategy here with why are they all of a sudden releasing this? Like, what's the motivation behind it? Why is CNN turning? Why is Washington Post turning on Joe Biden? Are they trying to get him out of office, or are they just trying to normalize the story so that people think that it's, no big deal whenever something bigger breaks? What's your theory there?
I mean, I think that you can go down 8 or 9 rabbit holes at this point of what the reasonings could be. Everything going on in Russia, Ukraine, the fact that Biden's poll numbers have tanked. And even today, they said it's plummeted to even lower. Every time we hear a report, you never hear a report of Biden's polling numbers going up. It's always like hit historic lows. I saw the other day, could Kamala Harris be the worst vice president of all time? And it's the New York Post and New York Times and Washington Examiners all doing these things. It could be, if I'm guessing, a way to try to get out ahead of it a little bit because they can't hide it anymore. So maybe make it a little normal, a little more normal, a little more normal. Pierce Morgan just the other day is out doing the old Jesse Waters bit, and he's asking people about it, all this stuff. And you hear New Yorkers talking about it like, 10 for the big guy. I think I know who the big guy was. And so these are New Yorkers walking around saying this. And I don't think anything will happen to President Biden. I really don't. I don't think that somehow, if it had been, another president, they would say, oh, his son is compromised with all this. Of course, the president had some did, but somehow President Biden will never have had any information about anything. And that's just the way the narrative goes. The media is in full protection mode of Joe Biden. Everything he says, every gaffe he makes, talking about Putin needs to be dethroned from power, telling the troops that they're going to Ukraine, they have to walk back everything that he says. I even saw an opinion piece the other day, guys. You will not believe this. Maybe Biden should not do live press conferences anymore. like at all. Like he's got 2.5 more or 2 straight years before he has to start campaigning again if he runs. And they're like, maybe he just shouldn't talk to America anymore ever.
I mean,
again,
it got him
and
elected,
kind of
right?
True. It was a working method back then. So I guess.
Do you find it ironic that we saw this type of narrative with the last president where they tried to build out the president's son to having foreign affairs in Russia and whatnot? Now what we're seeing is a complete unfolding of not only what we have said, but exactly what they tried to paint the last president and his family to be. Do you find that ironic?
I find that ironic. I mean, it can be argued the irony is everything that they said that President Trump was going to be, President Biden is turning out to be that way. The main difference is this. The main difference is for years, as we now know, this is now fact, right? Everything that they said about President Trump was not true.
Right.
The issue is everything that not the government, but the media and that the very few real journalists that we have out there that have been saying about Hunter Biden for years is now finally coming to pass. So I don't find it ironic. I find it sad that for, the entire Trump presidency, government officials and even political campaigns were out to get him. Now verified lies that did not happen. And now what they said were lies during the election cycle are now proven to be true. And so, good versus evil.
You mentioned the media walking back these comments from our president recently in Poland, and I'm really curious to hear your take as a former member of the military. What do you think of the president saying you guys will be going to Ukraine, that there may be some potential regime change there? If you were serving, would that scare you?
Well, in a tip of the hat to our men and women that still wear the uniform, no, it wouldn't have scared me. We have the greatest military in the history of the world. So no, I don't think our men and women are scared of that as far as a fight or anything of that nature. From the outside looking in, I'm just be honest, I don't trust our leadership to be able to handle these situations the correct way. And so for me, and this is what I talk about on the show all the time, whether you're pro-America getting involved in Ukraine or you're anti-America getting involved in Ukraine, honestly, that's not the argument. The argument is, do you trust the same people that are responsible for the debacle in Afghanistan? They're all still there. Nobody lost their job. It's the same people. Do you trust our leadership to actually be able to handle this situation, whether it leads to a resolving conflict or whether it leads to World War III? Who knows? My biggest concern is I don't trust the leadership, and I don't think anybody should. And if I was still serving, I've never been, and I hate to say it like this, I've never been more glad, because I still have a lot of friends that are in, and I talk to them about it all the time. I've never been more glad that I'm out of the uniform than right now, because I don't have any faith in the leadership, and I'm not in the military, so I feel like I can speak for them now because they're not allowed to say that, but I am. And so I don't have any faith in the leadership right now. And honestly, as it continues to go, they continue to show that we shouldn't.
Yeah. And then final question for you, Graham. It obviously seems like this whole trip to Poland was extremely underwhelming, just like everything we've seen with President Biden. It doesn't enhance your trust. It doesn't make you feel more empowered to fight for the country or fight for your commander-in-chief. But when it comes specifically to this Hunter Biden situation, will he be forced to talk about this? And if he does talk about it, can he put more than 2 sentences together?
I mean, I think there will come a point where President Biden is going to have to address it, especially if his son is in fact federally indicted. I mean, I don't see how he's not going to be able to make a statement. But it will be pointless. It'll be on note cards, and he won't take any questions. And if he does, it'll be specifically Associated Press, or whatever it is that he's allowed to take questions from. And yeah, they're going to shield Biden from this. And personally, I have a hard time believing that you don't know that your son is doing these kind of things overseas. I mean, I have children. I have a hard time believing, even as adults, that I would not know that they were doing some backdoor deals with foreign countries. But maybe maybe I'm too overbearing as a parent. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably just doesn't have location services on with Hunter when he's like, oh, you're just taking another trip? All right. But Graham, really appreciate you. You're doing some great work there on your podcast for Dear America. Thanks again for joining us. Please come back soon. We miss you.
Yeah, I'd love to. Real quick, you know what Twitter needs to reinstate? That video that President Trump put up of Nickelback. Look at this photograph. You guys
Yeah.
We need that video back. And now that all of this has proven to be true, I think that Twitter owes a lot of people a lot of apologies.
Well, John would tweet it, but Charlie would tweet it, but
they haven't got me yet. I've been trying to get them. I'm trying to back everybody up, and they won't ban me. I don't know what to do.
I'll send you the photo and the text that I threw out there. You put out the same tweet that I did or Charlie did. Actually, that's what you should do. You should send out Tucker's tweet, Charlie's tweet, my tweet, and Babylon B, and we'll see just coming.
Just bam, bam, bam. I'm trying to. At this point, we need to make a shirt. Be like, okay.
I love it. Thanks so much for
Thanks,
joining us,
guys. All right.
All right, we're going to be right back. We're going to talk about schools gone wild. Jason Rantz, radio show host from Seattle, is going to break down how you have some school districts out there that are trying to punish kids on race. It's crazy. But now a little message from our friends at Patriot Mobile.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now, more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies who fight for our rights and our beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to our causes, and with your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Obviously, that's something we talk about all the time. Is schools just going crazy. Like, it just seems like there's another thing that comes out. It's like, I'm not shocked.
No.
But it's depressing, obviously, to see what Disney's doing and everything. But once again, welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Lily Standley, Connor Clegg. We got Isabel Brown. I'm Jon Root. And then we're going to be joined by radio show host from KTTH in Seattle, Jason Rantz. He needs to break down what the heck is going on at Clover Park School District, where they're trying to dish out punishments depending on your race. Jason, welcome to TPUSA Live.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, well, obviously, it's funny. Like, I know we chat on a weekly basis, Jason, and you send me some of your stories. And just like I prefaced this whole segment, like I'm not shocked, but it seems like the state of Washington gets crazier and crazier and crazier. What's going on in Clover Park School District?
Well, I know, and I live here, man. I got to deal with this every single day. So Clover Park is just south of Tacoma, and this is actually happening across the state of Washington, where they're adopting these policies for student discipline called culturally responsive. And effectively what that means is they take into considerations the cultures of the students, whether they look at race or their socioeconomic background. They consider that when they're trying to dole out punishment. And the reason why this has come to the attention now is not just because the school board decided to alter its policy. In a lot of ways, they've been already doing this for a little bit, but because there's now mandated school board director training that the state Democrats put into place, and it's all centered around the cultural understandings of individuals. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that what ultimately is going to happen is they look at data and they say, because they've already been doing this now, Black students or Latino students are disproportionately impacted by the student discipline policies. And so that means there's some sort of underlying racism involved, which actually it doesn't actually say that, but they'll use that to justify not punishing certain students for conduct that they otherwise would punish them for. But also, if it is a student who comes from a privileged position because they happen to be white or whatever it happens to be, they will say, okay, well, maybe we will punish this person because we've taken into consideration their background. Now, the school district itself says, no, we're not doing that at all. This is not the intent. But when you look at the actual language in how the state defines culturally responsive discipline or cultural competency, and then you look at the meeting, you were just playing a little bit of a clip of that, how they were talking specifically about taking into consideration race. It's obvious where we're going with this.
So, Jason, explain this to us like we're elementary school students who may be facing this. if somebody's black, they're not going to be punished as severely as somebody who's white, or if someone's white, they'll be punished more severely for the same offense that their black classmate committed?
That's the biggest fear here, because if you're being told that you have to take into consideration the background of the student while you're considering what you're going to do for punishment, I think given the wokeness of the state of Washington and the Democratic Party and how they're constantly talking about how there are institutions of oppression that need to be dismantled because they're disproportionately blah, 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 blah. Well, obviously that's going to create a bias in the minds of these individual administrators. And that is unfortunately how they're likely to frame a lot of these punishments.
Well, it also sounds illegal, isn't it? Like, you can't just do that.
Yeah.
There's something called civil rights. But don't you
my
think
gosh.
that outside of creating a bias in the administrators, don't you think it's going to create resentment among the children towards each other and then probably just lead towards more violence? You know, I mean, if someone's not getting punished for doing the same thing, then...
I would think that, right? I mean, if I'm getting punished differently because of my skin color or because I come from a family... Yeah, things that you can't change. A family that happens to have some wealth, or I have a mother and a father in the household versus a single parent situation. Like, you of course are going to resent the students who are not getting punished in the same way. And that's why it's so important to shine a spotlight on this to ensure that the administrators don't end up making those kinds of decisions, because this obviously would come to, it would literally lead to the opposite of what we were all supposed to be about, which is actual equity and not judging people by the color of their skin and treating people equally, which I know the left likes to redefine words,
right?
But maybe we should, as a society, push them into the right direction.
Bunch of
So
sad,
all of
bitter,
this
angry fourth graders.
came about really as a result of the passage of a state law in 2021. And what we've seen from Washington State, especially in the education system, has been just absolutely asinine with indoctrination in the last 5 years or so. Why do you think Washington State really became the hub of this? I knew they've always been left-leaning, but they've really driven far into the left and a socialist agenda in the last several years. And what do you think the end goal is for education in Washington State?
So the reason why it appears that we are sort of leading the way in all of this nonsense is because they have total control. Democrats right now, in the last several years, have had total control of the legislature and the governor's mansion. So it has allowed them effectively to get away with anything that they've wanted to. And you have a strong influence of Seattle progressives and Seattle socialists who have effectively taken over. The end goal here is the same, the end goal all across the country with these educators. I think they want to use the classroom to push forward a very specific political agenda so they can make long-lasting change. It is very difficult to change the culture when you're talking to adults who, for the most part, are already set in their ways. You might move the needle a little bit on certain issues, but looking at a lot of these issues that have sort of changed, marijuana legalization or gay marriage, regardless of how one feels about either of those issues, it took generations to shift the societal thinking.
Yeah.
If you get in front of kids and you indoctrinate them into one specific position and you are just hammering them every single day with that viewpoint, well, then they become adults and you don't really have to switch the conversation, but you don't have to convince them of anything. They've already been convinced, and they're the ones who become CEOs and doctors and lawyers and politicians. And then you just don't have to worry about any sort of societal change because you've done it from the beginning. That's their end goal.
Well said.
And then the final question I'd have for you, Jason, is obviously, like, we talk about indoctrination on the show all the time and what that's going to lead to the next generation. And it seems like this could potentially bleed into the police department, the laws within that state, that you could have kids growing up, kind of like what you were saying, not only violence in the school, but violence as they get older, that they think they can get away with stuff, and that creates more violence in a place that's already seen so much, to where maybe, do you think they would change laws to be like, this person just robbed a place, or they stole a car, or they might have attempted
They're doing
murder,
that now.
Yeah, that's reparations, John.
And honestly, I would get in a lot of trouble. I'll say that for sure.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's called restorative justice programs, right? I mean, we're looking at specific kids. We've decided that we're not going to put juveniles in detention. We have gang membership that's out of control. And rather than put some of these kids in jail, we keep pushing them towards restorative justice programs that don't work. I'm all for giving kids second, third, or fourth chances if they're not already violent. But the second that you decide to get involved in a drive-by shooting or you are involved in an armed robbery, you should go to jail. Something that just happened in the state. It was just a couple weeks ago. You had two kids, one 15, the other is 16. They end up bringing a gun into a pawn shop. They pistol whip the owner. They fire the weapon to warn everyone that they're serious. They rob the place. They end up getting arrested, get put in front of a judge. The judge does not put them in jail. The judge puts them in home confinement, to which they decided to cut off their ankle bracelets. And now they are the lead suspects in the murder of a staff member at a pot shop that they allegedly robbed. So we are choosing to go down that woke pathway now. We are doing it to the detriment of our community. And to your point, John, you've got how many police stations, police departments across the country that are understaffed because the woke mob has basically pushed police officers out of their jobs. Well, those roles have to get filled. And I'm terrified that they're going to get filled by some social justice warrior who's going to put the community at risk and themselves and their partners at risk.
Totally.
Because they don't actually believe in policing.
Wow.
This is such a crazy place to be. Jason, I'm glad I'm not where you're at, but I'm definitely glad that you're there telling the truth. Definitely stay safe. Thanks so much for joining us.
I will. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Definitely another event that you guys got to go to is the Student Action Summit. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. We're going to show you a little promo and then give you some promo codes that you can use to get a nice little discount. We'll be right back.
Calling all based patriots, meme lords, and conservatives, Student Action Summit is happening 2022, Tampa, Florida, July 22nd through the 24th. You don't want to miss it. You'll make lifelong friends, you'll probably meet your soulmate, and you'll be able to network with the biggest names in the conservative movement. Sign up now on TPUSA.com.
TPUSA.com/SAS. You can use promo code Isabel.
You know it, baby.
Wow.
But you should definitely use promo code John.
Use promo code John.
You can use Charlie.
All of the names. Just plug them all in there and see if they all stack on top of each other.
Before we dive into What in the World Wednesday, obviously the wackiest, wildest, and wokest content we found on the internet this week. We got Isabel, Lily, Connor. I'm John. There was some breaking news that our team just told us. The New York Post is reporting that Joe Rogan says he's going to quit Spotify if I have to walk on eggshells and could move to another streaming site. And that sounds like that's along the lines of obviously all the COVID misinformation. They want to start putting that on the site. And all he does, we talked about it yesterday, he has conversations with people that said, hey, here's at times, here's my opinion, but here's at times, here's peer-reviewed studies, here's me as a virologist, and why you should listen to me more than someone like Bill Gates. And then people, you decide for yourselves. So
what a concept.
You know,
what a crazy thing, right?
It's so interesting that he says that, because that just makes his a little apology so much more disingenuous, because it seemed like he did that just to appease the mob. Remember over the COVID stuff where he was having Robert Malone and McCullough on, and people were saying, well, you have to interview people from the other side, and he was like, okay, I'll start doing that. And walked it back, and it was like this big like soft boy moment. He didn't believe
to be
that.
Fair, they gave him $100 million check to host that show. So, like, if you were being paid $100 million, one tiny appeasement, I don't know. I can see why.
Well, so do I. If you value money over your values,
but,
I mean, principles matter more than money.
Right. So I'm proud of him for growing a pair and deciding that his values mean more than his checks. He's a rich guy. He's going to make money no matter what.
We're waiting to see.
Getter,
for sure.
Was it Getter that proposed that they would start
Rumble?
Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a feeling that's going to be a partnership we see in the future.
Well, I think what he's saying exactly with this statement is my principles are more important than money.
Good.
Maybe I got pulled in one direction here a couple weeks ago, but you know what? I'm tired of that. I'm
and
going
you
to
know
do my
what?
thing. I'm going to tell the truth, which
he's going to be rewarded for that because his audience values that. As we can see, he's got the #1 most streamed podcast, most streamed anything out of anything ever. So he's going to be rewarded. He's going to continue to get the word out there, and I hope to see him at an event someday. Make your way to the Student Action Summit.
I'll talk to Cam Haines. Cam Haines has been on Breakaway. He's good friends with Joe Rogan. Maybe we can just shoot some bows, shoot some shiz. and,
All right,
and,
hit us with these what in the world situations.
All right, what in the world Wednesday?
Joe Bob is not
I
here.
was just gonna say
we don't have the Polynesian Punisher with us
Oh
today.
God,
That's his
Bold of
wrestling
you to
name. We came up with that here.
that
on
was
the
kind of
show.
like a what in the world Wednesday on a Tuesday. Yeah, it was our
That was
producers.
yesterday.
Producers in the control room, they just came up with a nickname for him, and I was like,
I
I
like
never
Punisher.
ever want to hear that again.
I wanna make him a t-shirt.
That's funny.
Yeah, it sounds like something you'd have for his OnlyFans account or something. Oh, what in the world Wednesday? It's getting
What in the
weird.
world?
This first one, multiple genders in college. See what this is all
Shocker.
about.
Okay, I can't read.
So this
I
is
need
what
my
we see
readers.
here. So 13 characteristics of white supremacy culture. My goodness. All those. We can throw those back up on the
Yeah.
screen. But actually, here's the one we were talking about. Multiple genders in college. So obviously you're filling out different forms.
What?
It says your sex
Demi,
is...
see, demisexual is now demigender
You know what?
too.
They need to just stop asking the question for gender on everything because this is absurd.
What's the difference between other and prefer not to disclose? What is other?
One means that you're
about-
super weird. The other means that you're a coward.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make
Both
any
mean that you're
sense.
sick.
I mean, this is just
Questioning.
absolutely ridiculous. Pretty soon it's going to be like the state scroller, and that's not going to be enough to appease somebody. So, I mean, they might as well just get rid of the whole stinking field. What does it matter? Why specify your gender
No,
when
don't
it
get rid
doesn't
of the whole
matter?
field. There should be two choices.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Of course.
But if they want to do
Let's
this,
be
do
clear.
like a submit your own answers.
I mean, come on.
Not
Why
like
wasn't
a
mermaid
list.
an option on there? What if I identify as a carry-on bag? I'm trying to get cheaper flights.
Well, that's
I mean,
where they
like,
see like they're trying to conflate all these things. Like you have sex and then you have gender. So it's just like, oh, I'm trying to just muddy all the waters here. It's just
Yeah,
like,
actually, can we
it's
pull
simple.
that back up? I am
Yeah.
appreciative that you mentioned sex and gender because they
Yeah.
say female and male, but then they say trans man, trans woman. They won't say man or woman. So they're trying to like
Do you wanna hear a fun
confuse and
trick?
conflate this entire
my
thing.
brain hurts.
No, here, I have a solution for that, all right?
Okay.
So a fun trick that I just figured out the other day. If you're confused by trans man, trans woman, is a trans man a man who became a woman, right? It's all very confusing, obviously. Just replace the word trans with fake. So trans man is a
Nice,
fake
there you
man,
go.
meaning that it's a woman who became a man.
Okay. Well, and that's actually more true to the definition anyway.
Well, yeah, of
because you
course it
can't-
is. It's a man.
Trans, trans means to change something. And I was actually very impressed with Charlie's interview with,
that was really
with
cool.
Buck Angel because he was very,
He was open-minded, and he was actually generally
open-minded,
amenable to
and
the
he
things
had
that we were saying.
intelligence where he was able to, be honest about things. What he was
Right.
saying is, you can't actually be a man if you were originally a woman. He's like, I was a woman, and now I identify as a man, but I acknowledge that I'm wearing a costume, whatever. So yes, I agree with that.
You
Fake
can check
man,
that out on the
fake
Charlie
woman.
Kirk Show podcast.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
like
It's a
it.
great
fun trick,
episode.
Fun party trick.
It's such a good
I love that, actually.
I literally
All
get
right.
so confused every time. Sorry, go ahead, John.
What else we
This
got?
next one, we kind of got like a streaker, but this one's titled Naked Man in a Mall. I don't want to see that. And for everybody, this is kind of explicit content. Got it blurred out.
Oh, Will Smith is not doing well after the other
No.
What is that, a fire extinguisher?
So,
Oh, and a mask.
yeah, it should
What?
not.
Good.
Why are you naked with a mask on, sir?
Isabel.
And he's
I
carrying a
afraid of
fire
getting
extinguisher,
killed
Maybe I
and
should say person. I shouldn't
Is he
say
just
sir. I
standing
don't
there?
know, right?
Wait for it. Wait for it. Keep watching. Watch. Keep watching.
oh my goodness.
You know what's funny is he gets up and he walks out, but he forgot his fire extinguisher. So someone should make sure that he gets that back.
I wouldn't.
I'm so confused. There's a lot to unpack here.
I mean, so this is the result of degeneracy being accepted in America. You have people who their only focus is wearing a mask. They're comfortable with being naked in public, walking
That
around.
alone is just weird, yeah.
Looking around like what? Like
why would you wear a mask?
This is where we're headed. This is what happens when you allow people to be insane in public.
Well, it's also that is San Francisco, and it's
Oh,
gone
right.
down.
That-
San Francisco.
all right,
It's
now
in
I'm
San
not
Francisco.
surprised at all.
So it
Right.
should not surprise you because
He's expressing himself.
to be completely honest, like I see a video like that, and I'm like, I've seen a lot weirder in San Francisco when
Yeah,
I was
I have.
living
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
And
like,
people
it's
say
just-
that all the time. That is a common scenario that keeps happening. So, I mean, isn't that against the law?
The last time I
anyway?
was in San Francisco, it was the 2019 Pride Parade in the
Ooh.
summer of 2019.
Terrible.
And there were a group of like 4 to 5 men, completely nude, who must have been 40 to 50 years old, and parents brought their children to
Yeah.
go stand there and take pictures with them. So this doesn't surprise me at all. This is just like, it's San Francisco. I'm not sure.
I actually heard they're going to make a new Disney movie about that guy. I was just reading that
it's
on
very
Twitter.
empowering. Yeah.
The fire extinguisher man. I
Person,
excuse me,
say,
I shouldn't assume his gender.
Well, it was blurred.
Yeah, this is true.
This next one, I
Could have
guess.
been Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah. This next one is titled "White People Shouldn't Hold Hands Because It's Racist."
Oh.
What?
I know that every person of color has been on the receiving end of this, so my video is actually more for white people, actually. This is a serious question, and I would like a serious answer in my comment section or a stitch. Are y'all aware that y'all often take up space with disregard for the people of color around you? If there's any confusion, I can give you guys an example. I'm from New York City. Sometimes a sidewalk is narrow to the point where there's only enough room for two modes of traffic, one going and one coming. But that has never stopped white people from walking side by side and holding hands.
Are you guys aware that breathing air takes air away from people of color? Are you aware that you're taking oxygen from people of color that could be breathing that oxygen?
And also, it kills grandmas of color too.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Why is it always the women with the fruity hair?
I don't even mind
Is that what she meant by color?
No. I mean, look, I think I know a lot of conservatives with colorful punk
Oh,
rock
for
hair.
sure.
Like, don't get me wrong.
should start calling them the
what
peacock
I do
people.
Not
Peacock
understand-
people.
I like that. Let's
Fairy tale things.
So if I'm in love and holding hands with my significant other on the sidewalk,
You're being
that's
racist.
white supremacy now.
Yeah, and especially if you're
But
walking
if
to the gym.
black people are in love, they don't get to hold hands.
Well, they live in America. They don't know how to feel love. They're too oppressed to have emotions like that, Isabel, obviously.
Forgive my white ignorance.
The thing that I get
apparently.
upset about on sidewalks is I feel like in America there are traffic laws, and if
Well,
you are,
especially in New York City. Yeah, that's very true, actually.
I say like walk on the right side.
Yep.
Please, when you're going forward. That's the thing that we should be upset about.
And
not about-
escalators. New York
Those
City
are absolute
and DC.
truths.
Yes.
Those are the biggest cultural sticking points. If you are not standing on the right, walking on the left on the escalator, prepare to be screamed
I mean,
at.
it's the
I'm
same
just
thing
That's the
as-
time I don't move.
Yeah.
I will keep walking. If I'm on the right side, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, these are like understood absolute truths.
But that's not an understood absolute truth.
Absolutely
No.
not. That's absurd.
Hold hands with your freaking boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, literally no one cares.
Honestly,
It's called left privilege. They're making things up, okay? This isn't a real thing. Now,
Fake
I mean,
outrage,
she can be saying anything. Hey, white people, did you know that you sitting at a restaurant is taking the seat of a person of color who could potentially accidentally walk through the door and need a seat by the window?
But like,
I think
but like
she
they
just-
say that.
She just
I know,
needs
and
to go
that's
on a
what's-
date.
That's what's
That's how we
crazy.
fix all of that.
But
Oh my God.
she
Be
clearly
happy.
doesn't want serious answers, though. You know, when she
I
said
think
that,
No, I think she does.
This
I
is
think
real.
she genuinely
These
does
people-
want
I don't,
serious
I don't
answers.
think so. I think
I've
she
dealt with
wants some
people like that before. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
they actually feel like
Oh,
they're
for
entitled
sure.
to
This
serious
is
answers.
TikTok.
I met someone one time who said, I can't get near a boat because my ancestors were shipped over here, so I have post-traumatic sailing disorder. And I had to like try not to laugh at him, but I'm like, you're so stupid. That's not a thing.
That's called self-inflicted victimization.
All right,
That
all
is
right, I want to
nothing.
see
that,
more.
that girl looks like she takes up a lot of
I wanna
space,
see
so I don't
more.
want to hear it.
Oh man, stop me if you've heard this before. Here's a man dressed as a woman. It's not Leah Thomas.
Is it Joanna?
Oh yeah,
would you
this
look
is
at
the United Socialist Conference or whatever. There's videos that have come out from this event where they're like, "Excuse
Yes.
me, point of personal
Oh, I
privilege.
love that, yeah.
You use gendered
Gendered
language,
language.
and we need to keep everything neutral."
Is that the one where they
point
do
of
this?
personal
They do
privilege?
this.
If you don't speak too loudly, it really upsets me. But also, if you do speak too loudly, it really upsets me. So can we just like recognize our privilege and be aware of the
Yeah.
volume?
Do you
that
see
we're
how quickly
speaking
that
at?
descends into chaos? Because then you can just a point of
great video.
personal privilege is anything you want it to be. Okay, your breathing is imposing on my privilege. I mean, that's what happens here. It's totalitarian in nature. They see no end. They can decide anything is imposing on their privilege at any day.
And then I know you were just saying this, Connor, but can we throw that picture back up on the screen?
I think
this
Tucker
is
Carlson
this is the
photoshopped
absolutely
this,
insane
just
world
like
we live
Leah
in.
Thomas.
If you say that you're a woman and we can easily see your crank in a mini skirt, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
And
Like-
men. Yes.
Like,
I'm just so
eggplant
concerned.
Emoji tucked in that dress.
I mean,
no, it
this
was
whole
not photoshopped by Tucker Carlson.
This transgender craze has absolutely skyrocketed in the past. I mean, I know we've seen it culturally for a while, but I mean, particularly in this past year, like since the beginning of 22.
2 weeks.
Seriously, I mean, it is everywhere. It is the only thing people want to talk about. And Charlie was having a very interesting conversation the other day on the couch about how he was receiving the most hate out of anything he has ever posted about when talking about these transgender issues. And I think it's something worth talking about, the radicalization that must be taking place throughout your entire being to be on the side of changing your innermost hormones. I mean, these are things that are so innate that you're born with that cannot be undone. It's one thing for a BLM activist or the feminist to go after you and say something. That's like a mental issue. But when you have these transgendered identifying people, it is a craze and an obsession that runs so deep, and they need help. We need to like treat them with compassion and point them towards getting help with gender dysphoria. That's what we have to characterizing this as. This isn't normal, and it's not healthy.
Well, I mean, what transgenderism represents at the level that we're seeing it right now, a widespread cultural rot, that if we don't go and do something to nip it in the bud, we're going to see the denigration of objectivity in our culture, which means that we're not going to know what a man is and what a woman is. We're already seeing that a person who doesn't know what a woman is about to be on the Supreme Court, right? And conservatives in the Senate are voting for that,
because
right?
she's a woman, ironically.
Yeah, exactly. So if we don't put a stop to even the most basic lunacy of like refusal of gender, then what else are we going to tolerate, right?
I'm surprised that skin color isn't fluid anymore.
Well, I mean, if something there's been people who identify as
transracial. I know. I mean, it was something so fundamental as gender and being able to deny it and do whatever you want. I mean, what's keeping somebody from saying I identify as a black person? You know, I mean, this is absurdity.
But one thing we know for sure is men don't get periods. But I guess if you become a trans woman, you do get periods. Crazy stuff on TikTok. Check this one out.
Important things to remember: not everyone who has a period is a woman, and not every woman has a period. Period. Accept it, move on. It's good advice. But also, to my fellow trans women out there, you should never try to shame a woman with a period into being grateful if they have one by saying something like, "You're so lucky. If I were you, I'd be so happy."
Blah, blah,
this
blah,
is
blah,
anarchy. You know, I asked people that I follow or that follow me about this the other day.
I'll get that for
Thank
you.
you. I am a
Women,
biomedical scientist. Learned all about periods, what causes periods, what's happening in your body. I mean, we all learned about that in like 5th grade in health class, but I learned about it really in depth in college. And you're literally not having a period unless your uterus is shedding the lining of your uterine wall. Like, sorry to be graphic, but that's literally what your period is.
Explicitly
so there was
what it
this tweet that went super viral also on this subject this week where someone was saying, okay, hi, I'm a trans woman. I'm experiencing my first period cramps, and what the F? I can't believe we let people live like this. And I was like, that's literally not possible. Like, if you're having extreme pain in your pelvis, go to a hospital. Like, you're probably not having cramps from your uterus, which is why it's cramping.
One?
Because you don't have one.
Right.
So you should probably go. So now this is the new thing, is they're like saying trans women are telling biological women, oh, you're so lucky that you have a period because that means you're like more of a woman than me somehow. And my honest to God question, you're both men. Why do men pretend that they want this? Like, PMSing sucks.
It's
like,
not fun.
Period sucks. There's a reason your girlfriend is miserable every single month. Like, I'm just telling you, it's not
Absolutely.
fun. So why are we like culturally pushing men to want periods? I do not understand this.
Because weak men create hard times, and the regime wants us to be under hard times right now. So if you want a weak man, you make a confused man. And what's more confusing than a man who thinks he has blood coming out of the vagina that he does not possess? Look, I was an English major. I know about periods too, Isabel. And
it doesn't take a scientist, though. That's what I'm saying.
You know what's so funny is they say, like, no uterus, no opinion. But then anybody can identify as a woman. So
no uterus,
like,
no opinion, but no uterus, yes, period.
Yes, period. I mean, that's, again, goes back to the left having no... if they didn't have if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. They can say whatever they want, rain or shine, and it goes.
And here's the thing: we have to stop being like willing to go along with it. Not that we are, but so many conservatives are, quote unquote conservatives are, right wingers, if you will. They're just like, just live and let live. It's not really affecting me that much. What do I do about it? Why do I care? Whatever. Freedom, right? Liberty. Well, no. I mean, like, they're co-opting the entirety of society to play into this weird, creepy game that confuses kids, makes people uncomfortable, and generally speaking, makes society a less desirable and enjoyable place to live in.
Yeah.
We all should have a united voice here and say, no, this is weird, this is creepy, this is a game that you're trying to make me play, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Could you
I'm not
imagine
playing.
being a 5th grade boy in health class and be told by your teacher, like, hey, guess what? I know you don't have one of these, but someday you may experience severe pain in your pelvis and start bleeding. That would be so scary to hear. I mean, it's scary as a girl to hear when you're a kid, but like, how are we telling little boys that, like, oh, that penis you were born with, that's not actually a thing? Like,
because we hate them. Because our culture hates innocence and children, and their entire goal is to pervert it. That's what we see through every aspect of society right now, from Disney to ESPN to laws to people on the Supreme Court to people on college campuses. The entire agenda is complete and utter perversion. And they're doing it at every level.
And I know we got to head to one last thing, but going off of your point, Connor, is like people just need the truth. Yeah, that's it. So it's like obviously in this country you can be who you want to be. I'm not going to get that one.
Struggling, you guys.
It's like yes, you can be who you want to be, but you're forcing people into this stuff. Through lies.
Refuse to adapt it.
Yeah.
And I want to say one more thing really quick. I know we have a heart out here, but everybody's asking me, like, why are you talking about this every single day? Why is all of your content so focused on this lately? Why is every major conservative with a platform constantly talking about the gender and perversion and LGBT ideology with kids? Because this is the most important issue of our time. If we
it's a winning
successfully convince an entire generation of people that they don't even understand their own gender, how can we honestly expect them to understand any other subject under the sun? The most innate thing that you were born with, that characterizes almost everything about who you are and how you see the world, all of a sudden makes no sense to you. So therefore nothing else will make sense to you either. We have to keep talking about this every single day, because otherwise there's no alternative.
Think about it. If you can commit people to believing absurdities, you can commit them to committing atrocities.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, we fight a culture war every single day. It's a battle every day. You can choose to fight or not, and if you don't fight right now, it's going to lose the next generation. Sebastian Gorka, tell us about Freedom Square. We'll be back for one last thing.
All right, guys, you have signed up, right? You've joined freedomsquare.com. If you haven't, why not? This should have happened a decade ago. How did somebody not think of this earlier? If you're a business owner, we have a business directory to promote your business to patriots across the nation. So if you want to buy American, if you want to sell American, we have a business directory. Whatever it is, go now.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
We're back for one last thing. All right, CNN turns on the Biden family. It's kind of crazy.
Shocker.
Like, I know when we were talking to contributor Graham Allen about, like, oh, this seems like convenient timing. Like, now that you're talking about it, like, this could have major implications. Yes. Should have had major implications 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But we do have a video of this where CNN legal analyst Ellie Honig, hopefully I'm saying that right. You can tell me if I'm wrong, because I know he's covered. Charlie's covered this. Went on CNN to discuss the drama surrounding the whole Hunter Biden laptop situation. Check it out.
Well, Brianna, this is a very real, very substantial investigation of potentially serious federal crimes. We are seeing federal prosecutors in Delaware do exactly what you would expect to see federal prosecutors do in this situation. They're talking to witnesses, they're bringing people into the grand jury, they're issuing subpoenas, and I would expect, as Evan reported, they're now gaining steam, and they need to make a decision, I think, in the at least intermediate future. This case has been going on for 4 years, and there is a realistic chance this could result in federal charges. Of course, then we'd be in unprecedented political territory, not legal territory, but a situation of having potentially the Justice Department prosecuting and trying to imprison the son of the president.
You know what this says? This is not their pursuit of truth. They're trying to wipe their hands clean so that if something does happen, they can say that they were on the right side of the situation and still continue to hold that foot with their audience. Because if they are able, if they go down with it, you know, for covering up the whole story and everything, that's going to reflect so much more poorly on them than if they're, like, similarly to how they have done with Fauci. Like, they kind of ostracize them. They try to get, like, last minute they flip the switch and try to be on the right side of it so they can wipe their hands clean, maintain that relationship with their audience, and continue to spew lies.
Hot take, I don't think that's what's happening in this particular instance. I think they genuinely know this will never lead to federal charges, but it's a big enough story because enough Americans were invested in finding out what was actually on this laptop that it's going to shroud everything else in the news cycle and completely make us forget about every single other issue that we're facing. Record high gas prices, inflation, everything that's happening in Eastern Europe, the fact that literally no one respects us on the international stage, and our president doesn't even understand what state he's in, let alone what's actually going on in the world.
You're both wrong. So, CNN cares if they have a left-wing president in office, and they want to have that in office as long as they can. Same with Congress, House, Senate, right? Nothing has been worse for the agenda on the left than what Biden and Harris have done, President Biden and Vice President Harris have done, to show the American people how incompetent and inept they are at governing. CNN wants Biden out of there. They want him out of there before midterms. They want to get Kamala out of there, too, so they can put someone else in.
Who?
Do the last 2 years, probably Michelle Obama. Speaking of trannies.
It's true.
And then they can try to win back over that moderate electorate, right? And get their people back in office.
Well, that's who I
literally,
think they'll run in 24, which would be interesting. But that's an interesting
I'm
take.
glad you say that because there's always, they're not just turning on them just so it's just like, what, that's going to help the right? It's like, no, there's always somebody next and then the person behind them. There's always some sort of agenda here. And then now when you say it's very real, very substantial, like, come on, we've been saying this for years. It's absolute nonsense. But Lily, Connor, Isabel, thanks so much for the memories. It's been a great day. Hope you guys search for truth. Don't just talk about your feelings. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Amen.
China lied, people died. You think we're the only economy that China wants to see fail?
You haven't been paying attention.
Remember all your online purchases? But really, we're the product. Am I the only one who wants to know why the rich got so much richer? Are you still with me? Because it gets worse.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. Today's top headlines. First, the White House omitted a Ketanji Brown Jackson case of over 6,500 files of child pornography. We'll get into that next. Ukraine says Russia has now partially withdrawn from the Kiev area. Third, we're going to break down a little bit of just what is the Biden-Ukraine connection, because it's been a long time since we've actually gone through all this, almost 2 years since the laptop dropped. And then finally, speaking of that laptop, the FBI cyber chief has admitted that he doesn't know where the Hunter Biden laptop is. All this and more ahead, Human Events Daily.
We are going to treat a person who's distributed 1,000 a lot worse, because that shows that this person is really engaged in this really horrible behavior. In comes the internet. On the internet, with one click, you can receive, you can distribute tens of thousands. You can be doing this for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden, you are looking at 30, 40, 50 years in prison.
Good. Good.
I understand.
Absolutely good. I hope you are.
To do.
Good.
Allow her to finish, please.
I hope you go to jail for 50 years if you're on the internet trolling for images of children and sexual exploitation. So you don't think that's a bad thing? I think that's a horrible
That's not
thing.
what the witness said, and she should be allowed to answer this question once and for all.
So that, of course, was Ketanji Brown Jackson at her hearing last week. Now, we also heard early this morning that it looks as though Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine is going to be jumping ship and actually voting, crossing the aisle to vote for KBJ. So that would be a bipartisan vote for KBJ. We've also heard Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, known as a swing Democrat, a moderate Democrat, has also said that he is more than likely going to vote for KBJ. So that means at this point, it looks as though this confirmation is a lock. If you've got these swing senators going for her, it doesn't seem like you're going to pick off enough senators, and remember, of course, the balance of power, it's 50-50 in the Senate right now, with the Vice President Kamala Harris being the one for a tiebreaker if there is a 50-50 vote. So that means that you would need 51 against in order to essentially stop the nomination. You need a simple majority for a Supreme Court nominee. It looks like it's going to happen. That means that KBJ is going to be on the Supreme Court for probably the next 30 to 40 years. The same 30 to 40 years that we were just talking about. But now we've got information, this comes to us by way of FoxNews.com, that the White House omitted a light Jackson child porn sentence in documents given to senators. The GOP has said they've called it a cover-up. What was this case? Remember, we heard again and again in these hearings that it was 7 cases. There were 7 cases of child pornography abusers, distributors, traffickers. What was this case? It turns out there was actually an 8th. And this came up as people were digging through her cases on the docket. This case, a grisly, described as grisly, a child pornography case in which Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson departed significantly below probation office recommendations. So this is now, instead of 7 out of 7, now you've got 8 out of 8 cases. What was it? US v. Kane, over 6,500 files depicting children appearing to be of elementary, middle, and high school ages engaged in sexual acts or posing sexually. Probation office recommended a sentence of 84 months in the case, but Jackson sentenced the man to 60 months in prison, which was the mandatory minimum, the bare minimum. Again, 8 out of 8 cases. And this one, the Kane case, came up while she was on the bench, and yet it was not included in the cases that the White House brought over. It was not handed over. Now, they say the question was inadvertent. They said the omission was, well, we're sorry, we forgot to include it, we didn't want to include it. You knew that these cases were going to be the centerpiece of the confirmation hearings. You knew this. But you also got to point out that this is on the minority, on the Senate side as well, because it's their due diligence, right, to put the vetting of this judge up through. So if you know that she's got 8 cases, you got to go through all her cases, guys. Look, I think that in this situation, it's a done deal. I think that one of the issues really with this is that they spent a lot of time on her record, as they should, but they didn't get this 8th case early on in all of this. And more importantly, it seems like there was more of a media push rather than actually working on these swing senators. Now, if you're someone who's on the conservative side, you actually care about these issues, you want these child pedophiles, people that are preying on the most innocent and vulnerable in our society to be locked up, those are the people, those are the groups that you should have talking to these swing senators. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see these advocate groups. I didn't see conservatives working with them. I didn't see them bringing up this stuff. And so, guys, look, when you know, and this nomination had been going on for months, right? This was not like a last-minute thing, and yet it came up to be a last-minute thing. Probably the biggest thing that I could say in terms of all of this, NBC poll last week, down in the crosstabs of it, it said that 56% of Americans didn't know the name of KBJ and didn't have an opinion on her. Whose fault is that on? That's on all of our politicians' fault for not explaining who this person is that's going to be sitting now on our highest court in the land.
Look, we've seen the Russians make claims of peace over and over again and do something differently. So at the moment, we are seeing some of their forces move out of the areas around Kyiv and out of Chernihiv. We see this more as a repositioning rather than a withdrawal. We fully expect them to use those forces again elsewhere in Ukraine, but we'll obviously be watching very, very closely.
So as far as helping the negotiations, this does not help the negotiations because, in fact, they are not pulling back.
Of course they're not, and you know, they are also all over southern and eastern Ukraine as well, and they're continuing to pound Mariupol, they are continuing to pound Kherson and all of those towns in extremely inhumane ways.
So that's Victoria Nuland. You guys remember her from her biolabs testimony, right? Oh no, the biolabs that don't actually exist, but maybe do, but maybe are just research, but don't you dare call them weapons. They're just pathogens, right? It's definitely not dual use. We shouldn't ask any questions about Victoria Nuland's testimony under oath, by the way, with Marco Rubio in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee just a few weeks ago. But Victoria Nuland's up there, and this has become the new political football, this talking point of, did the Russian military fail to take Kiev, or are they withdrawing troops because they're planning a real target, planning to focus on the real target in the east, that area of Donbass, and the area that they've already taken in the north and south, Kharkiv and Kherson. And so a lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, so the Russians have come out and said, well, we're going to drop this as a sign of good faith, these combat operations around Kiev. But the United States is saying, well, hold on, wait a minute. This could just be a redeployment of combat troops to a different region. And so when I'm looking at this and pointing out that this isn't some new military tactic. This is actually a classic military strategy. It's called a feint, right? And you see this, if you ever played a game of chess with Russians, you would know that this is a classic strategy. It's a fake out. You make the opponent think that you're coming straight for the king while your true focus is actually elsewhere. So that's what we've seen, these types of maneuver warfare in terms of being able to fix the Ukrainian forces, who in this situation, by the way, are obviously larger than Russia's invasion force. You've been able to split their forces to make them defend more of the territory. And so much has been made of saying that Russia is a bigger country than Ukraine. Of course, it's a bigger country, but Ukraine is an extremely large country. I think people miss this point. That's why we show the map so often, that if you put it on terms of the United States, it would stretch from New York City all the way to Chicago. Massive, massive country. And so what Russia is doing now, they're drawing away pressure from Kiev because they want to complete what? That encirclement of those troops, those 50,000 or as many as we know are on the ground still in what's called the Southern Cauldron in the east around Donbass. And as we remember, this has always been what the Russians said that their focus was. They said this was essentially a civil war that they wanted to intervene in. They wanted to get these Donbass breakaway republics and then pull them away, call them separatists, work together with them, intervene, and then, of course, also connect that land bridge from Crimea to these republics. We're also seeing what's coming down in the north. So the diplomatic talks have been going on, and we are very positive about the diplomatic talks. We want diplomacy. We want ceasefires. We want security guarantees from both sides. One of the talks out there, one of the points I think is very strong, by the way, from the Ukrainian side, is they said they want a security guarantee which brings in Europe, the United States, and Russia. So you would have all three sides coming to a security guarantee for the country of Ukraine, but Ukraine itself would remain neutral and essentially stay out of NATO. Now, one of the questions that's still on the table is they're bringing up again that the Ukrainian diplomats, the Ukrainian negotiators, are saying they want EU membership. And I still think that the jury is out on whether that's something that would be amenable for the Russians to agree to, because when you're looking at that situation, EU membership itself does have inherent security guarantees. It also creates a visa system through the Schengen zone, whereby essentially it would push the EU border all the way up directly to the border with Russia. This is something that doesn't exist at this point because the EU border is between Poland, the various southern Central European countries like Hungary, Romania, Ukraine. So those two countries, Belarus and Ukraine, are now between the EU and Russia. So you would really lose that buffer state status, at least in terms of the economic bloc of the EU. So it remains to be seen whether or not Russia would be amenable to that. I think that would be a huge ask. I think it would be in the interest, obviously, of the Ukrainian people, but again, it remains to be seen whether or not it's in the security interest for this to come down. But when it comes to these troop withdrawals, I think the better way to look at it really is, this is a classic Russian chess move. It was deception. Remember, we talked about how they were constantly threatening an amphibious invasion of the city of Odessa, right there on the port. Threatening it, pulling back, threatening it, pulling back, sending in amphibious landing ships, pulling them back. Why did they keep doing this? Simple. That required Ukraine to maintain a military force fixed in position in Odessa. They did this in Kiev as well. At the same time, they were conducting strong military operations and cleanup operations now in the city of Mariupol in the far east. Again, We are describing what's going on the ground. We wish this war had never happened. We don't want any of these wars to happen, but we are not going to lie to you. We're going to tell the truth about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine.
I was, not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired.
Well, that was Vice President at the time, Biden, talking all about how he got the general prosecutor of Ukraine fired. He was bragging about it, the Council of Foreign Relations. He actually flew to Kiev at the time and demanded that the former president, Petro Poroshenko, who was the president prior to Zelensky, fire this prosecutor. And now it's gone back and forth for several years now over why this prosecutor was fired and why the West wanted this guy gone so much. They say that the prosecutor himself was corrupt, but many other people say that the prosecutor was digging in to this company, the state-owned enterprise or state-affiliated enterprise, Burisma Gas Holdings, the same company where at the time Vice President Biden's son was a board member. And when you read the fact checks that have come out about this thing, they try to act like this whole thing is debunked, but it actually wasn't, right? They say the fact check comes out. I read them all yesterday. I went back and double checked on this stuff because I wanted to talk about this segment. The fact checks just say, well, there was an investigation into the owner of Burisma, Mykola Zlochevsky, this oligarch guy, but actually the stuff they were investigating was before Hunter Biden was on the board, and therefore it couldn't affect anything directly with Hunter Biden. But you see the weasel words there, right? Right? Understand what's going on. And we've got emails explaining all of this. We've got emails that the New York Post, of course, originally posted all the way back October 14th, 2020. What did it say? It was an executive of Burisma thanking Hunter Biden for introducing him at a meeting with his father, right? What was the point of all of this? Burisma Gas Holdings was under investigation because the oligarch who was the owner of the company, this guy Zlochevsky, was also the Minister of Natural Resources for the country of Ukraine. And then he was giving these mineral rights, these mineral deeds, to a company that he himself owned, right? So you understand the obvious corruption there. So the other oligarchs started getting upset with him. The anti-corruption people start getting upset with all of this. They want this investigated. And then so what does the company do? Well, they know that their country, this current government of Ukraine, has a lot of ties to the United States and is getting a lot of money through the IMF, which the US also obviously has a lot of influence with. So what do? They hire the son of the vice president, put him on their board, and then we've also got emails from the lobbyists that Hunter Biden hired where they were saying their top goal was to get influence from their Washington, D.C. contacts to make these politically motivated attacks go away for Burisma inside Ukraine. That was April of 2015. So in April of 2015, we've got the email talking about making these political attacks go away. December of 2015, Vice President Biden goes to Ukraine and says, we want this guy fired, the general prosecutor of Ukraine. Now, you can play all the semantics games you want about whether or not it was direct investigation into Hunter. But the point is, it looks like they were selling access to U.S. foreign policy decisions. And on its face, it's obviously corrupt. It is self-evidently corrupt because this is clearly an example of the son of one of the most powerful families and politicians in the United States getting rich, $83,000 a month, in order to enact U.S. political foreign policy in the world, which obviously led us to this dangerous war and the crisis that everything is in right now.
I want to know where Hunter Biden's laptop is. Where is it?
Sir, I don't know that answer.
That is astonishing to me. Has FBI Cyber assessed whether or not Hunter Biden's laptop could be a point of vulnerability, allowing America's enemies to hurt our country?
Sir, the FBI Cyber program is based off of what's codified in Title 18, or Title 18, Section 1030, a code which talks about computer intrusions, right, using nefarious intent network.
But you've talked about passwords here. I mean, Hunter Biden's password on his laptop was Hunter02. He drops it off at a repair store. I'm holding the receipt from Max Computer Repair, where in December 2019, they turned over this laptop to the FBI. And what now you're telling me right here is that as the assistant director of FBI Cyber, you don't know where this is after it was turned over to you 3 years ago.
Yes, sir, that's an accurate statement.
Congressman Gaetz doing the Lord's work there. So he's now put a copy of the Hunter Biden hard drive, AKA the hard drive from hell, into the congressional record. And of course, the FBI, the head of cyber there, doesn't even know where the laptop is, doesn't even know where their copy of it is. Because keep in mind, all the stuff that we've seen on this, all the stuff that I've seen on this, and I've seen some pretty heinous stuff on this thing. Raheem Kassam, by the way, my great friend Raheem Kassam, was more than happy to go click by click by click by click through this thing and show me everything in grisly detail. And absolutely, it is grisly detail. Not only is there criminal activity on there, there's certainly activity that appears to be in violation of state crimes, to put it mildly, in the state of Delaware. And so that's why early on, a copy of this was turned over not only to the FBI, but to local Delaware police, I believe in Newcastle, Delaware. But the bigger issue here is, this is one of the times where, I remember looking at this, right? Hunter Biden films himself again and again talking about all of these things. He says, oh, my family doesn't give me any respect. They go to their state dinners, they give all these speeches, but I'm the one who does all the work. I'm the one who makes all the money, and they get all the credit, but I'm the one that keeps this family financially sound. He's complaining about it, videotaping himself. I'm like, you know, I don't, you know, I used to work in the IC. I knew a lot of guys for the FBI. Believe me, they don't usually get suspects who just film confessions on their laptops and then have all the evidence handed to them, right? They're not used to situations like that. And I guarantee you the only reason that we haven't seen a grand jury come down on all of this yet, and apparently there is a grand jury out there, and we're going to dig more into that and find out what's going on, but the reason that this hasn't happened earlier is because Hunter Biden's last name is Biden. Same token, by the way, of course, he would never have been in this position in the first place if his name, you know, if his name were just like Hunter Johnson or something, right? You know, he wouldn't have been able to be in a position to make all these deals. And that's something, by the way, people need to understand, that when you dig through the emails and text messages, because his iMessages were synced to the cloud, so they're all on the hard drive, this was a family operation. It was understood that Hunter Biden's money was family money. When Jill Biden, or, you know, at the time, Vice President Biden were asking money to be sent around, it was understood that that Hunter would pay bills, that Hunter would send these, you know, those prepaid debit cards, things like that. He would send them out to the people as he was directed by other members of the family. So that's why when I talk about this, I talk about it as the Biden family corruption operation, because that's what it was. This was the money going in through Hunter Biden in his name as the bag man, and then being dispersed as they saw fit. And that's all the time we have for Human Events Daily today. Remember, our promise, our oath, our solemn vow to you: be good, be brief, be gone. Your homework for us: share this out with one of your normie friends and leave us your 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you receive your podcasts. What did we talk about today? The White House omitting Johnson case of over 6,500 files of child pornography. Ukraine says Russia is now partially withdrawn from Kiev, but is it a feint or is it a redeployment? Next, we broke down the Biden-Ukraine connection, and in the end, we talked about Congressman Gaetz questioning the FBI cyber chief over the whereabouts of the Hunter Biden laptop. Before we go, today's history break. Today in 1981, the failed assassination attempt Ronald Reagan, John Hinckley shot him coming out of a hotel only 2 months after his inauguration. Imagine how history could have been changed if his bullet, if his aim had been a little more fatal. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
China lied, people died. You think we're the only economy that China wants to see fail?
You haven't been paying attention.
Remember all your online purchases? But really, we're the product. Am I the only one who wants to know why the rich got so much richer? Are you still with me? Because it gets worse.
Number 1, I still do this. Number 2, if you weren't doing this, then you were the person pretending to sleep talk for attention.
Good night, you guys. Oh, wait. I just want to let everybody know that I have been informed by my other friends that I may sleep talk a little bit. So if you hear me, just like wake me up, but you probably won't even like hear me. You probably won't even notice it. But if you do, hey, Lily.
Is she calling my name? Today on the show, do I buy Will Smith's apology? Also, this famous right-wing commentator says he used to have alopecia and shared pics to prove it. Speaking of saying sorry, Kim Kardashian has now apologized for telling women to get up and go to work because people are so soft that I guess that offended them. And I'll tell you if I recommend the new docuseries that exposes Hillsong Church or not. And then, the moment conservatives have been waiting for, we have chosen the winner of our VIP YWLS Experience giveaway. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Poplitics. Will Smith clearly got a phone call from his PR team where they said, look, man, you aren't gonna escape this one. You have got to apologize for the assault and apologize to Chris Rock or your brand in the eyes of the public is toast. Because that's exactly what he did a day after his little slippity slap. I think everything he said in his apology was what needed to be said. While I agree, I think these are all things that should have been said in his acceptance speech because everyone's ready to move on now from Slapgate.
Get out.
What's interesting is that Chris Rock's comedy tour tickets are soaring right now. According to Variety, his tour tickets were selling at $46 per ticket last week, and after Sunday night, they went to a minimum of $341. So I don't think Chris is hurting too bad, pun intended.
That was a greatest night in the history of television.
Everybody hates Chris.
This year's Oscars was actually the second least watched one ever, but I am curious what the ratings will be next year. Because of the slap, a lot of people feel like they missed out because they weren't watching, so I think a lot more are probably likely to tune in next year, just in case something else goes down. Although, people seem to be forgetting about one of the OG slaps heard around the world. You know which political commentator on the right came out and shared that he also suffered from the hair loss disease alopecia? Dave Rubin. I never would have guessed this. He has a great head of hair, but he shared the before and after pictures on Twitter. He cured it, he said, through diet, exercise, and PRP, which stands for platelet-rich plasma and can cure male pattern baldness.
Look, Baldy's here.
Will Smith wasn't the only celebrity to apologize recently, but because of all the media focus on him, this other apology kind of slipped under the radar. Remember when Kim K said this?
I have the best advice for women in business. Get your ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
That's so true.
You have to surround yourself with people that want to work.
She now says she is sorry for her controversial comments. She said it became a soundbite, really, with no context.
Well, that statement that I said was without questions and conversation around it, and it became a soundbite really with no context.
What context is needed that we didn't get? You were asked what advice you give to women in business, and you said get your ass up and go to work. That seems pretty fair to me. The problem is, way too many people do refuse to make something of themselves and won't work hard to build an empire. They turn into lazy socialists in college, and their idea of working hard is crying discrimination at every turn and suing their company for not using their pronouns of bug, buggy, buggert. And you know what else? Graham Allen would agree with Kim's original statement.
Get up and go to work.
I told you guys this was coming out, but we haven't followed up on it, so I feel like I need to give you a review. Hillsong, a mega church exposed docuseries, is out on Discovery Plus, and it is so good. So, so good. Wow. A perfect blend of theology, pop culture, and scandal. You will really like it.
Have you ever heard of Hillsong Church? Hillsong is the celebrity church, right?
Bieber, Bono, Vanessa Hudgens, Kevin Durant.
It wasn't just this Australian startup anymore. It was Justin Bieber's church. They've had over 3 billion views on YouTube.
Hillsong changed the way that many of us saw how church could be done.
They're huge now. They're huge.
You can make a real change if you come to Hillsong. This was gonna be a place where I could call my home. But that clearly wasn't the case, and it almost took my life.
Since this docuseries came out, even more Hillsong pastors have resigned in Dallas, Atlanta, and Phoenix, along with Australian Brian Houston, the founder of Hillsong, because it came out that not only does he have multiple sexual misconduct complaints against him, but was also accused of covering up that his pastor father had sexually abused a 7-year-old boy.
Some people are just born evil. The Kid from the Omen, the Children of the Corn, Chad Michael Murray.
After reviewing up to 400 giveaway submissions, we have finally chosen a winner for a VIP, all-exclusive, inclusive, Rambamoosive trip to the Young Women's Leadership Summit in Dallas, Texas.
Hello, is this Molly?
This is.
Hi, Molly. This is Alex Clark.
Oh my gosh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh my gosh, it's good to hear from you. Wow.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of bad news, but I also have good news. The bad news is, unfortunately, you did not win the giveaway.
Dang it. Okay.
The good news is you won the giveaway.
Stop. Are you kidding me?
You're going to YWLS VIP, baby!
Oh my god. I'm literally like so freaking stoked. You have no freaking clue.
Yay! Yeah, sorry, I had to prank you a little bit. We're so happy for you, and talk about who the friend is that you want to bring with you.
Oh, I literally just met her like online through the group. She's super cool. Like we talk about fitness and stuff like that together. So
You met her through Conservatives?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
The conservative, we have like the Telegram chat that we all started and stuff like that. So we kind of started talking through there and everything. So yeah.
Oh, good. Well, listen, we're so excited to see you in Dallas, and hopefully your friend can come, and if not, obviously you can choose somebody else, no problem. But listen, we're so excited, and my team will be in touch with you soon to just get all your other information and book your flight and all that good stuff.
Wow. Oh my god, this is so incredible.
Yay! By the way, this phone call is going to be on Politics, so tell all the cute conservatives hi and that you're excited to see him in Dallas.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm so excited.
Okay, Molly, we'll be in touch, okay?
Oh my gosh, thanks, Alex. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for entering the giveaway. It was a really difficult decision. My team went back and forth for hours deciding between a number of you, and I wish from the bottom of my heart that I could just fly all of you first class, all exclusive trip to Dallas for the Young Women's Leadership Summit, but we can't do that, unfortunately. However, I will say this. Look, It's been a long road getting to 100,000 followers. We could not have done it without you, and just know that we are beyond thankful. I still do want to see all of you who applied for the giveaway at YWLS, and I want to meet every single one of you. So make sure you apply before tickets sell out. TPUSA.com/YWLS and use code POPLITICS so you can get 25% off.
I'm ready to party with.
This Friday, I will be speaking at Kansas State. If you live near there and you want to come, please heart this episode. Let me know in the comments if you are done with Slapgate or if you are actually still enjoying all the memes and everything. Tell me also in the comments if you've watched the Hillsong docuseries yet. DM this episode to somebody that you know who always did those shenanigans at every sleepover growing up. And by the way, tap the save button so that we can show up more on your feed. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Poplitics. Support Poplitics, the first ever conservative pop culture daily show, by subscribing to our channel, turning on notifications, and of course, hitting the thumbs up. Also, our main home is on Instagram. Seriously, just trust me, that's where the real magic happens. Follow us there at Poplitics.